All right, peace. What's going on? We're gonna be dealing with family today. I don't know if y'all can see that. The words might be a little small, but you just zoom in. But we're gonna be dealing with the concept of family today, and we're gonna be able to establish in your personal life whether or not your family is for you or against you, whether they're enemies, allies, whether they're friends or foes. Basically, go deep into the origin of the concept of family, the word family. We're going to be dealing with etymology here and language. So just follow me because we're going to be going in deep. But this is basically whether or not your family is for you or against you, or whether or not you really have what you would call family, or whether you have enemies. So I'm going to start off by going into the origins of the word father. All right, so basically the word father comes from the word patah, right? And basically this means like pattern, which would be order or law. So the father or the patah, pita, because the word F, it originally comes from the letter P, which is in the Phoenician alphabet. In the Phoenician alphabet would be pei, the letter pei, P-E-Y. And basically all of the English words, all of the Greek and Latin words come from the Phoenician language. And each one of these letters represent, in English, each letter represents a ideogram or a glyph, basically called a pictograph, which is basically a picture of something in this material world. It could be an animal, it could be any noun or any object. Basically, the P represents the mouth. The A represents the Aleph, which is the ox head, which is basically your ego or your head, represents power. The T represents the Tav, which represents the sign or the symbol. So the Patah represents to speak the symbol of power, basically. So we speak in the symbol of the power of the cosmos. That's what father means, right? But this breaks down into getting into the word pattern. That's where we get the word paternal from, patriarchy, patrilineal, meaning your DNA. You have your Y DNA, which is your father's DNA. Now, to basically give you other words of what pattern could mean in a household or in a family, that could be order, the law, the blueprint of how to build a family, the structure. So basically, we all know that's what a father does in a household. So we getting into etymology right now. And remember, this whole time, while I'm going through this, we're going to be breaking the spells. Because you got to understand, language originally is the origin of the whole concept of magic. You have to speak with your consciousness things into existence, whether it be evil or divine, or evil, divine or good. And the power over that consciousness, or over the mind, because remember, all is mind, all is mental, is the origins of the concept of language. And that's basically where we get magic from. And I'll go deep into that, but right now we're breaking the spells, because every day that we live, we basically using these terms and using these concepts based on our relationships and based on the things that we do. And we're basically under a spell. All right, so getting back to it, like we was breaking down, basically, father represents the pattern or the patah. Now, in ancient Kemet or the ancient Nile, even in the Kushite empires, the language basically that they represented of the original cosmic father, the great father that we later on get in the Abrahamic systems. That whole concept basically represented the Jed pillar or the column of the whole cosmos, basically. It's all metaphysical, but you have to understand that the ancient Kemites or the ancient people everywhere in every ancient society, every classical ancient society or system, they understood that basically as above, so below, as within, so without. So the family was basically a microcosm of the macrocosm, the heavens. So your father would be nothing but the same as the heavenly father, as above, so below. And that would be the pattern or the order or the law of your house being the cosmos itself. So let's get deep into this. So what about mother? Mother comes from MTA, not PTA, MTA. MTA basically could be the goddess Ma'at, right? In the Hebrew system, because that's basically what we're dealing with in the Bible. that would be Ima or Kokma. She has many other names like Alat, Shekinah, Kokma. These are some of her main names. Atharat. Even in the Syrian version, her name is Asherah, and not the daughter Asherah. We'll get into her in a minute. But MTA basically is Ma'at or Mut, the goddess Mut, which basically represents the heavens themselves. It represents the Milky Way, represents consciousness. But yeah, so Mut, or the mother, will represent the material, right? What you see on the board, I have elements. Well, the mother would be the elements or the material. Hydrogen would be basically the pattern, or the what you would call the vibration, the order, the geometrics, the sacred geometry of the primordial world, or the world before creation. So those two come together, and basically we get what we call nebulas, and those nebulas explode and they become stars. So stars are basically nothing but the sons of God and the sons of the Great Mother in the Bible called wisdom. In the Hindu system, her name is Saraswati, and they call her Mahamati. Maha means great, Mati means mother. Like I said, in the Egyptian, her name is Ma'at, or Mut, right? So it represents the material, also represents the matrix. Matrix just basically means not nothing bad, it just means the material world. Like I said, you can generally look up definitions of this great mother all across the world. She represents wisdom. Because basically when you get to this higher level of consciousness, which would be the Holy Spirit or the Ruach HaKodesh, and the Great Father, which would be basically your own soul, your own self, you basically get realization of self. Because remember, we're half our mother, half our father. But that's just not on a human level, that's also on a divine level. And like I said, it's nothing but hydrogen and elements. Know thyself, right? So that's the mother. I think I'll move on to the son. But generally, basically, we know the mother is a nurturer. So we know that. So the son, let's deal with the son. The son will basically be nothing but the son. Now, this etymology is questionable because a lot of people argue over it. And I get that. But basically, I found where the etymology does connect to son. You know what I'm saying? Indirectly, but it is connected. And basically, the son will be nothing but, if y'all can see that, the willpower. So your sibling, your brother, if you have one in your family, will be the willpower of your family, right? Or if you're the son, you're the willpower of the family. Now we'll get to daughter right now. Daughter comes from a goddess by the name of Duhita. That's the Sanskrit word. These words can be found in Sanskrit, Phoenician, Greek, Roman, Latin, English, Spanish, some Spanish words. Because basically, you understand it is all languages are connected, either through the Afro-Semitic languages or the Indo-European languages. They're all connected. They all have a common origin. And basically, those terms I just used were invented by Europeans, but they tried to invent words or concepts that can basically show that all of the words have a connection or origin together. But Dohita comes from Sanskrit, and that makes its way all the way into the English being daughter, right? And basically this represents a goddess by the name of Ushas. And she represents inspiration or an idea. Basically like an epiphany, right? Epiphany. So let me go ahead and move on to brother. So first of all, hold on, with the daughter, or with Duhita or Ushas, remember we have the sun and we have Ushas. Ushas represents the dawn. So daughter comes from the concept of the dawn, the sun dawning. Your sister going to be in your life in and out from day to day, which represents each episode or each experience in your life being the dawn or being the light that returns to your spirit or to your energy. Like I said, if you're a male, you being the willpower. But you could be a female, and that sister could also be your dawn. It could be the dawn of your inspiration, the dawn of your happiness, the dawn of your joy, the dawn of your knowledge, the dawn of your whatever type of endeavor you have. Your sister should be the one who inspires you and motivates you and gives you the idea or the spark to keep moving. And that basically represents you being asleep and you being awakened, either to your will, to your destiny, to your purpose in life, whatever it may be. Your sister is the one who gives you that enlightenment. Your brother doesn't necessarily really care or give you that enlightenment, but he represents your willpower. So whatever you for, he for, but he's supposed to give you that drive. If he doesn't, then we're going to deal with what type of brother or sister or father or mother you really have. But I'm breaking down the metaphysics based on etymology right quick so we can lay a foundation. Because I'm going to go into some scriptures and some quotes. But first I got to lay down the actual meaning of these words. Now dealing with brother, now this is deep. The word brother comes from Ba Ratha. Right. Now, believe it or not, this actually is the word of the whole country of India. Originally, it wasn't called India. India is a name given to them by the Europeans and to the Persians. But Bharata was their original name, right? So let me make sure I set us up. So the word Ba, this is going to be a little complicated, represents your soul or your light, right? Represents your soul or your light. Ratha basically represents the chariot, your chariot, or basically your chariot. But you gotta understand this word Rita or Ratha can also mean your actions or your devotion, right? Your actions or your devotion. Ratha can also be ritual. So your brother will be the ritual of your soul, the ritual of your light, meaning he's the energy inside of your house, the deity or the energy inside of your house that basically conducts the ritual to keep your soul vibrant and keep your soul relevant or keep your soul present. It's also the vehicle or the chariot that helps your soul get carried from one world to the next, or from one episode or one period in your life to the next. Like I said, it represents the willpower. So the Ba is the sun or the solar energy, or just your soul itself, right? So your brother will be the vehicle for your soul, right, to help carry you from one period of your life to the next. So I'm gonna basically try to fit this in here, but basically the chariot or the chariot or the devotion of your soul, your light, or even your sun. Right. So that's what your brother is. I'm gonna draw a little line here to separate my brackets that we can keep it organized. But yeah, your brother is your Bharata. Your Ba being your soul, your light, or your sun, and your Ratha being the chariot or your devotion or your act. So your brother's gonna make sure that you do the right action. He's gonna have the devotion. He's gonna be your vehicle of your sun or your light or your soul, which basically represents your awareness and your consciousness throughout your life. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So sister. Yeah, we're gonna deal with sister now. What comes from Savasa, and that's an SV. But that SV in English can translate into as you. The V and the U is interchangeable in all of these ancient languages, basically. But Savasa. So let me break that down more thoroughly. Su means good, and Vasa. I don't know if y'all can see that. Might be kind of small. Hold on, I gotta fix that. Suvasa. This is where you get the word sister from. And Vasa basically means, let me make sure I'm on it. Vasa represents influence. Influence, control, It can mean wish. And it can even mean a house or adobe. So your sister represents the Su, meaning good. Vasa, meaning influence or control or wish. So your sister is one who grants you good wishes. Basically, she's over your mental concept in your life of prosperity or blessings, or basically your benevolent self-identification, right? With the different things that you're motivated for. So she represents your good influence. So if your sister's not a divine influence over your life, then most likely she's not the divine family. She's most likely the demonic family. And we'll get into that in a minute. But basically, sister comes from Savasa, which basically means Su, Vasa. Su being good, like we said, Vasa being influence of your good, control of your good, or the one who grants you good wishes. And Vasa can also mean house or dwelling place. So wherever there's an open space, she's that good, benevolent energy that's in that space. That's your sister, your Savasa. The word, let me break this down right quick. The word Siva, S-V-A, can also mean your own self. So your sister will be basically a part of your own soul, your own self. And this is interesting, so I got to break this down too, is that your brother, 1 minute, or your Bharata in your house, 1 second, let me on all of this your Bharata would be the god named Agni. And your sister, like we just broke down, will be Savaha. Because the origins of the word sister Savasa is also connected with the goddess Savaha. Now Savaha is another form of Duhita, which was where we got daughter from. And she's basically Ushas. So let me break this down. Just follow me. In the Hindu or Sanskrit system, which is basically what these words mostly are, in the Hindu system, the Ba, or the sun, his name is Surya. Now, the sun that we have outside externally in the sky is Surya. The Egyptians call him Re or Ra. But the same solar energy, or the same Surya out there in the sky within you is prana, or inside of your solar plexus, right? There's different types of pranas, about 5 different distinct pranas, but generally or overall, that outside sun inside of you is basically prana. Now, that's in the sky, inside of your body, and now we have inside your house. All 3 represent the same body. As within, so without. As above, so below. So inside of your house, your house is nothing but your temple. So whether it's a temple, a sacred space, or just your house, you would have the god Agni. So Agni inside of your house is the same as the prana inside your body, which is the same as the sun inside of the sky, or outside there in the sky. These 3 are the same exact energies, they're just in different spaces. So they create 3 different myths. But Agni is basically lord over the ritual, over the soma, or over the homa. And it's also called the yagna. The yagna, the homa, which is basically the ritual, or the ritual fire pit. And Agni is the fire inside of the bonfire, or the fire pit, where you offer your offerings to the deities or to your ancestors. So basically, Agni represents the divine fire inside of the ritual, which represents the prana inside your body, which is nothing but the sun itself, which is full of hydrogen, helium, carbon, nitrogen, and a few other elements. So Agni is the actual earth fire, the same fire that we create with candles, the fire that we smoke with, the fire that basically burns down houses. That's Agni. So that's the fire or the sun on a planet. So we're breaking that down because inside of your house, Agni has a wife or a sister by the name of Svaha. Svaha, now we have the dawn that's out there in nature, out there in our solar system. It's a dawn that happens on Earth. The sun rises. Well, that dawn inside of your body will represent Shakti being lifted through your spine or through your lower regions, lifting up through your body. That's the goddess Dawn or Duhita or Ushas, right? That's where you get the word daughter from. She represents the Shakti or the lifting of the energy inside of your body that helps you get to your solar plexus, which is your willpower, and eventually get you to divine love and compassion, because that's what she represents. So, like I said, in the solar system or out there in the cosmos, you have a dawn, which represents the cyclic rotating or orbit of the sun, right, of Surya, which is her brother, the cyclic orbiting of her brother. She represents that energy, that geometric energy or rhythm, to where it rises and sets on these different planets or these different planes. So that's out there in the cosmos, right? But I said inside of your body is the Shakti, right, which is a certain state of inspiration or enlightenment, coming out of being asleep or ignorant. But inside of your house, because remember we did the same thing with Agni, inside of your house, over the ritual, she would be the Swaha or the Swaha, which would be basically be the completion or the ritual itself, the energy of the ritual itself. So Swaha and Agni, husband and wife, basically are over the household rituals, which would basically be like prayers in the Hebrew world. And amongst the Hebrews, basically, they had the same concept. They just call it Shekinah. That's all. So just look up the Shekinah. But Svaha is basically the Shakti inside of the house, right? Which is a metaphor or allegory for the parallel energy inside your body, which is the energy of the ritual in your body, which is Shakti. So Svaha. So she means good influence or good wish. So when you do a ritual, you say Swaha, what the ancient Hindus did, which are nothing but Africans, but they weren't called Hindu. That's some modern day politics. But you go to the ancient South Indians, the Dravidians, when they did their rituals, they would say Swaha or some type of similar word, because you understand Sanskrit, most of these words we're dealing with comes from the Tamil people or the Dravidian languages, which comes from Africa. So all language comes from Africa. We can get into that another day. But basically, they say Swaha during their rituals, and basically that means let the divine energy of God grant my benevolent wish, my benevolent influence, my benevolent control over my life or over my spiritual development, right? So that's Svaha. So that's what she is. She's a goddess. Agni is a deity. Both of them, husband and wife, or in the mythology, they also brother and sister, but it's not no incest. These are deities, not humans. So let's get to uncle. Now this is going to be quick because I basically spent a lot of time on the other concepts. So let's get to uncle. Uncle would be, it means nothing but the little grandfather. Now just look up the etymology of all this yourself. But it means little grandfather or minor grandfather. And why is that? Because in all of these ancient systems, especially of the Africans, we have a concept where of lineal incarnation, where the grandparent would incarnate as one of the sons or the grandson. So if you have an uncle in your family, he's nothing but an incarnation of your grandfather or his father or his grandfather. And it depends on basically the family, though. But it means little grandfather. That's what uncle means. It also means, one minute, it also can mean ancestor. And we'll get into that in a minute. Ancestor. So that's like we said. So your uncle in your life would not be your patah or your mutah, which would basically be the great father, God, and the great mother, wisdom. He wouldn't be either one of those. He would be one of your ancestors, which is basically distant, more distant than God or mother, right? Or the great father or the great mother. So, that's uncle. So let's deal with aunt right quick. Aunt would be Amita, right? Amita, aunt comes from the word Amita. It's another Sanskrit word. And Amita basically means little grandmother. So your uncle is your little grandfather, your Amita or your aunt is your little grandmother. One second. I'm gonna deal with nephew and niece. Both of them had the same origins, but they come from Nepotism, right? What's that? Nepotism, right? So let's write that. Nepotism. And this is where you get the word nepotism from. Now, nepotism, Nepotism, nepotism basically means doing business only with your family. That's what nepotism means. So what can happen is if your family becomes so large, you're able to dominate and control the other families in the village or the city by only hiring your own to work for you and gather wealth with you. Where America, we know, has gotten out of nepotism, but they still, a lot of the foreigners and immigrants and even Jews and so on, they practice nepotism. See, the main problem is black people don't practice nepotism. But nepotism basically, in a broad sense, would be racial or ethnic economics, practicing economics or getting money, right, with your own race or your own people. But that's a broad sense. But in a smaller sense, it represents just doing business with your family only. So nepotism. So that's where we get the word nephew from. And you got to remember, this whole concept comes from Nebuchadnezzar or Nephthys out of Kemet. Because remember, Nephthys is the sister of Osiris. Osiris being nothing but a form of Ptah, right? So it gets deep. And remember, Ptah and Osiris and Nephthys and Aset are nothing but brother and sister, right? So go look up Nephthys and you'll get it. But niece comes from Nephthys as well, or Nephthys. And this is Greek right here. And like we said, it basically represents nepotism. It's the origin of the concept of nepotism. Oh, and I wanted to add this too. It also means not. Y'all see this, not Ptah. So this is all of the deities in your reality. Like I said, your ancestors that are not Ptah. Right, that are not Ptah, which basically means not ruler, not the Lord over your house. They still very much powerful, but they're not the master, the Lord, or ruler over your house. They're not your Ptah. They're not your father. So that's what your nephew and your niece would be. You're not Ptah, not your rulers or your masters, but they are an ancestral spirit, which uncle and aunt means. Right? So make sure I go in deeper. So like we said, sun, we'll put him right here, represents the literal sun. I don't know if y'all can see that. The Svaha and the mother, right, represent the wind, basically. Ushas or the dawn represents the wind, which is called the Vayu, or the prana that moves through the air. So those two together basically was very much needed for your soul or your seed to blossom hold on, I can do better than that. To blossom into a lotus. So let me put this right here. So basically, this whole concept of the lotus is going to be dealing with the chakras again. I'll get into these. And like I said, yeah, that seed will represent your soul. So your brother will be your Agni or your sun, and your sister will be your Svaha, or your prana or your wind. Now, your mother and your father will basically be your elements, right? Your nutrients, which will be your mother, and your water, right? Your water. We'll get into this. But the water will be your hydrogen, like I put right here. So that basically all together is what makes life, right? That's what gives nutrients and energy in life. So I'm going to get in a couple quotes right quick. All right, right quick. So what does the word parent mean? Let me get into that. I don't want to lose track on document everything. So what does parent mean? Parent comes from the Sanskrit or Hindu concept of Purusha or Prakriti, and also, for example, Pada Vati. Now that word Pada or Puda, you can hear it Pada and Pada Atman. Pada Atman will be your higher self. Your parent will be what? Your higher self. Your Pada Atman, your Pata, or your Mata, Mahati or Mahat. So your parent is your Purusha. Look up Purusha, he basically is the cosmic man. Like I said, nothing but Pata. Same thing as Pata in the Kemetic system. Purusha basically is your cosmic man. He's also called Vishwarupa, Narayana, and other names similar to that. And Prakriti, Purusha and Prakriti basically are considered the two major principles in nature that give us the illusion of this material world that we live in. So obviously, Purusha will be your father, Prakriti will be your mother. And Pradavati basically is Shiva Shakti. Now, Shiva will be Pata or Prajapati, and the mother will be the Mahamati. So let me write that. Prajapati. So that's where the word parent comes from, Prajapati. Praja means great, or the highest, or the first. Pati means Pata, again, father. Now, Mati means great mother. So the Purusha is the Prajapati. The Prakriti is the Mahamati. And basically, those two together is how we get all of creation. This is called Samyakya philosophy or Vedanta philosophy. And basically, they broke down how the whole material world came into existence from subtle energies of consciousness that we in the Western world, or in English, we call the atom or the Atma. Remember, the Pada Atman, the Pada atom, the original atom, which would be this where these stars in our solar system come from. And remember, the stars gave birth to the elements gave birth to everything, which would be the planets, which would be younger stars, the earth, the sun, the moon. They all come from elements that were born inside of the core or the heart of stars. Them stars come from higher atomic particles that we might call photons, which would be made up of electrons, neutrons, protons, and quarks and ions and different pieces of atomic matter, basically. And this gets into what you call particle physics, different particles. So astrophysics is the basis on particle physics, which basically gets deep down into the atom itself, the protons, neutrons, and electrons. So that soup of ions that we might call nebulas gives birth to stars. The nebulas, or that sea, that primordial ocean, is the great mother named Tiamat, or Mata, or Ma'at, or Mut, or even Nut. Her name gets translated. But in the Hindu, her name is Saraswati, or Mahamati. Prajapati is another name. Pati is another name for Brahma. But it's also another name for Vishnu or Shiva, any of the three major fathers. Now, in the Hebrew system, that would be El Elyon, or Yam, or the angel Mikael, or Metatron. See, Metatron, right, of the mother. The Hebrews would have got it from the Syrians, which they would call it El Elyon again, or El Shaddai. And all of them got it from the Sumerians and the Phoenicians, which basically would be Anu, the god Anu, or Enki, or Enlil, right? And basically, those fathers are the origin of the basis of the whole material world. But Anu also has a father named Ansar, but it goes deeper and deeper. But that will be Osiris, Ptah, Bes, Atum Re or Atum. All of these basically are Ptah or Prajapati. So you put both of these together, Prajapati and Mahamati, you get the whole material world. So parent comes from, like I said, Prajapati or Purusha or Prakriti. Kin the word kin is the same as the word jinn. Jinn or genie. Right? So your kin will basically be your ancestral spirits, your genie. Because you have to understand that every one of your kin or your siblings have a common ancestor with you directly within 7 generations. Well, each one of those common ancestors that you have that have passed away, that are dead, they live through you and your siblings, you and your kin. And whatever gene that you share with them in your household, that will be an ancestral spirit, basically, a household deity or tutelary deity or a genie, basically. And these genie are common all across the world. In West Africa, we call them Igungun. In the Hindu system, they call them Ganas, or Ghana boots, or Petries. Petri, see that word Pata, Petri, Pita, with an R, Petri. That word means forefathers or ancestors. But basically, they're called the Ganas. We call them in West Africa Igungun. So your kin is basically your genie, your ancestral spirits. Now, one last word we're going to deal with. So siblings basically just mean to link to one's own self, to link to your own self. Sib also comes from, it's also the same word as sis. Sis and sib is the same word, and it comes from sava. Savasa, but sava. And that word means your own self, your own person. And sibling is a link to your own self. So whenever you are around your siblings, or if they grew up in the same household as you, they basically represent different pieces of the puzzle of your own self. Get it? Especially if they your whole sibling, not your half sibling. They are links to your own self, to your own what? Genes, your own kin, your ancestral spirits. So this is important because this gets into ancient African spirituality, but for right now we just got to gloss over the words in English and try to just dive a little deeper, which takes us to the Greek and to the Hindu system. So cousin also comes from this word. Let me write that. Cousin means the same thing. Link to own self. So that sin is also the same as sib or sis. Let me keep moving. I'm gonna add one more, I believe. Let me see. Relatives. I'm gonna do it relatives. The assumption is that relatives just basically comes from relate, meaning I just relate to you, meaning I know you, I connect with you, but it goes a little bit more deeper than that. But relatives basically overall just means to see that word lattice or lattice. And this word lattice is where you get the word Atlas and Atalanta or Atlanta, but Atlas. Atlas, the reason why this is important, your relatives, because Atlas is a titan in the Greek mythology, and he represents your Ptah or your Prajapati. Because the pillar of Atlas is nothing but the Jed pillar, which is your spinal column, but it represents the the world tree, or how all of the people in the cosmos, or beings, not people, all the beings in the cosmos are connected through one line or through one pillar. The whole cosmos stands on a world tree or a world pillar. It's called the Pillar of Hercules, the Pillar of Atlas, the Pillar of Ptah, the Pillar of Osiris, the backbone of Osiris, or the Djed Pillar. It's also called the Ben Stone. So basically, your relatives are your backbone. You see, your spine. And they're also your world tree, your family tree, your relatives, right? Your re-Atlas, because Atlas represents the whole cosmos. So it's bringing you back to Atlas, your relatives. That word Talis also comes from Tellus, which is another name of a goddess, an earth goddess, by the name of Gaia. And that's where you get the word geography from. Or earth, just basically the earth, Gaia and Demeter. So they are re-Tellus, meaning they bring you back to the earth, back to the elements, the elementals. Where's that at? The elements. Re-Atlas or re-Tellus. Right? Tellus is, another name for Tellus is Terra. So when we say extraterrestrial, we're saying outside of the earth. When we say terrain or terrestrial, we're saying of the earth. So basically it's re-Tellus or re-Terra, meaning being of the earth. And it's also where you get the word Tierra or the name Tierra from. It's from Terra, Tellus. So this all takes us to the Hindu Tulas, which basically means scales. So your relatives are basically your scales or your balance. And that's what connects all of the other words like Atlas and Tellus, or Atlas and the earth, because Atlas is your spine, which gives you your balance. He's also the balance of the whole cosmos. He holds the cosmos on his back, which is the balance. The scales represent scales of judgment. So your relatives bring you back to your scales of your spiritual and moral balance. Because basically they connect you with the whole cosmos. The law or the pattern of the Pradipati. The pattern or the order or the law. That's your relatives. They're supposed to bring you back to that balance of Ma'at, the Mata, the material or the matrix. But she also represents gnosis or knowledge, right? Or the law, the divine law. So we're going to deal with one last thing, and that's family. So right now we're breaking down, like I said, the divine family, but we got to deal with the other side, the dark side, which would be the demonic family, because you have to be able to understand and come to a conclusion in your life. What is your family's role in your life, and what are they to you? Are they these? Because you got to understand, either your brother can bring that light of that Bharata, or that sun, that willpower, or he can be one who blocks your willpower. Your parents can bring your pattern or your order or your law, or they can bring chaos and disorder, right? Or your father can bring the pattern, order, or the law or structure and guidance into your life, or he can bring disorder and no guidance and no structure, right? So, like I said, your father, which is supposed to be your pattern, your order, your law, which basically means the structure or guidance in your life, can breed your disorder or your chaos in your life, which will be this top line, which is nothing but darkness. So that lotus flower, which is your soul, your spine, your spirit, will not be able to blossom out of the dirt and the grossness of this material world. You'll not be able to break out of the material world and have your spirit ascend. And that's why I have these 7 lotuses right here, which is basically the chakras. And I'll get into how deep this is, but for now, let me keep moving on. Your brother can either be your light or your sun, or the devotion of your light or your sun, which is your willpower, or it can block it and totally remove your willpower, right? And have you unmotivated and have you uninspired. So your brother can be either one, so it's real dangerous to be amongst these family members and not know what energy they actually have, or not know the origins of what family actually is. because it can disrupt your spiritual development and your material development of your life. Your sister, she's not giving you good wishes. She's blocking that. She's blocking your prana, and she's blocking your dawn of your enlightenment or your transformation in your life. She's disrupting or blocking your change. You know what I'm saying? Because we all are growing constantly through life. If your sister's not bringing those dawns, which is those bright mornings, and helping you awaken and be vitalized and have energy, she's casting shadows on you, right? She's also will also block your ideas. And what's interesting is this word sister, savasa. This vasa is also the root of the word vasana. Vasana. And vasana basically means your mental memories, or your mental images or memories of your ancestors or your past life experiences that basically can either be positive, they can be suvasana, they can be a positive vasana or memory or impression in your mind, or it can be a negative impression on your mind. So if she's basically blocking your light or blocking your shine, then she's blocking your suvasanas, your good vasanas, because your sister is very much you're very much impressionable from your sister. Whatever she says pretty much is what's going to determine your outlook on reality about yourself, your self-esteem, or your capabilities. But if she gives you suvasanas, you'll be able to carry them for the rest of your life as positive affirmations, right? And they'll just be in your subconscious. It's not even your choice. That's what your sister and your mother can do for you. It can do suvasanas. Vasa, influence or control or wish, and vasana means impression, mental impressions. And a vasana can be two things: a samskara, which is a scar or a negative impression on your subconscious, or it can be a blessing, which is a boon on your subconscious or your impression. So you have to know who's around you and what energies are they really giving you. So you'll know your own self. This is knowledge of the self. You know what I'm saying? Because remember, siblings just means linked to one's own self. If you know your siblings and your parents and so on, you know your own soul, your own self. Because all is, for a reason, all is God. You see what I'm saying? And that the only reason that everything even is for you to get knowledge of God, which is your own soul, your own self. So that's what your siblings are. They links to you to get knowledge of your own soul or God. Now, cousin also means that, and sister means that too. Sava, sibling, cousin, and sister means your own self. So, if they're blocking that, what we say as black people is they throwing shade. If they throwing shade, they haters. If your brother's a hater, he's gonna block your soul from being able to develop your spiritual development, and even your physical development and mental development. If they blocking your shine, that's another word we use, then you basically can know that they're not these divine family members, they're demonic, right? And we'll get into this, but if they are, if they don't shed light, meaning if your brother doesn't shed his light, his energy, his insight, then basically you can know that they're not divine, that they're a demon, right? If they keep you in the dark, meaning they keep secrets, or they don't put you on game, they keep you ignorant and out of insight about things, then you know that they're a demon, they're dark, right? And the word Bharata can also mean, the word Ratha means chariot, but also means Bara can also mean to carry or to bear, right? To bear or to carry. So if your brother's not lifting you up and right putting you down, then you gotta understand that basically it's a demon and not a deity, a divinity. So, and that applies to all of your family members, basically. And you gotta understand that at the beginning of any society, or at the beginning of anything, whether it's a family, a nation, a kingdom, a project you have, there's 4 parts to everything that we do. Wait a minute. There's 4 parts to everything that we do. There's 4 parts to everything that happens in life. 4 seasons, right? So we have spring, summer, fall, winter. Well, in the Sanskrit or Hindu system, they have the same thing, but they say it's for everything in the human experience, whether it be the four seasons in nature, whether it be a relationship, whether it be a business, whether it be a family, a nation, a kingdom, everything goes under four seasons. So those four seasons, you have the Satya Yuga. There's four seasons as ages. They're called yugas. There's the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Those are the four. The Kali Yuga, right, this basically represents darkness. Kali means to decay or to die. Right, now this is not the great mother or the goddess by the name Kali. This is actually a demon named Kali. But that demon Kali has 7 major demons. So when you go into the Hebrew system, those 7 demons are called the 7 princes of hell or the 7 vices. If your family are under that age or that period in this nation or the period in your family, that 4th season of the decaying, because everything dies, all the relationships and love and compassion and connections that you have in your family or in this nation, it eventually will die. Everything will die and have to be reborn. So we know that this nation is old enough now to be in its decaying state, which means your family is going to be collapsing and dying, meaning your relationships. So during that period, the family will be made up of 7 demons or negative principles, right? Demons are basically just, angels are basically just positive thoughts in your mind. Remember, your mind or your thoughts are made up of hormones, which basically are neurotransmitters, which are made up of hydrogen atoms and compounds that basically travel through your brain. So what's in the stars, right, what we call particles and photons and light, is the same thing that's inside of your brain when you think, right? Which travels, those neurotransmitters travel through your synapses. Those synapses and your neurotransmitters, your very thoughts, your hormones are made up of elements and particles like hydrogen, helium, oxygen, nitrogen, so on and so on. So the angels are nothing but your positive thoughts. It's real simple. The whole mythology of heaven, the kingdom of heaven is within. The angels fell into the negative hormones because they cling to more weightier metallic elements, right? So the lighter elements is hydrogen and helium. The heavier ones are from what we might eat or from different bad experiences we might have. So the angels are the positive thoughts in your mind, or positive particles or atomic particles in your mind. The demons are the negative hormones in your mind. So your family, if they have these 7 demons, which could be lust, pride, wrath, gluttony, avarice, ignorance, right? So there's major 7. I'll post the 7 on the screen. But if they have any of those 7 demons, those 7 princes of hell, those 7 vices, then basically they're not going to be these things for you in your life. They're going to block your shine. They're going to not shed light. They're going to basically throw shade on whatever it is that you're trying to develop or grow. So, and that's only because we're at the latter end of our family structure or family systems, and we at the latter end of our nation. So that's why the Kali Yuga, or that stage of the 4th season, is coming in. But remember, that 4th season, the Kali Yuga, in all of the holy texts, like the Bhagavad Gita or the I don't have it here, I think it's over there on the corner, but in the Upanishads and the Puranas, they talk about in the Kali Yuga, that's the opportunity for all of your real holy men and women to become enlightened, because you're able to separate yourselves from the illusion of a society and family and all of the things that the world is made up of. You're able to wake up to the illusion because everything becomes clear, right? The darkness of this world becomes clear, so you seek the light, which is nothing but, that light is nothing but your ba or your soul, nothing but your soul. So how can you distinguish whether or not your family is for you, basically divine and their influence to help you, or they're against you? Well, you can know about three things, and that's protection, uh, provision, which would be like money. So basically, how do you know if your family is for you? Is whether or not throughout your life were they concerned with making sure that you had protection. Because you understand, in this material world, we're basically in a gladiator ring. We at war. Every animal and species within animal groups is at war because it's a competition over resources. So the fantasy or the delusion that we have as humans is that life is something something nice or something lovely or soft. But the reality is, when you go out into nature, you'll see how brutal animals will eat each other and compete and slaughter each other, and basically ruthless. They have no compassion whatsoever, which basically will be a spiritual concept. But the reality is, if your family knows that this world is cruel, this world is full of brutality and competition over resources, over money, or wealth, competition over wealth. If they don't make sure that you have weapons, they're not your family. It's real simple. You see what I'm saying? They're not your real father, your real mother, your real brother, or your real sister. Next, provision. If they make sure that you don't have any resources, which would be money or land or wealth, and they basically watch you suffer, they're not your family. If they don't make sure that you have relationships, which basically will be what our whole major impulse in this reality is, which is sexuality. If they basically see that you suffering with that, money and warfare or protection, then they don't got your back. They're not your ally. It's real simple. So what would they be in this game of life if they don't do that? And when I say game, it really ain't a game, but when we say game, meaning there's a competition over resources and competition over sex. In this game of life, your family can either be teammates, coaches, or they can be spectators in the bleachers. So you have to make sure that the people around you are not spectators, meaning they just watch to see whether or not you win or lose. They can really care less if you win or lose. They'll be entertained either way because they're not your ally, they're not your teammate, they're just spectators. You know what I'm saying? They just there for the show. And you gotta understand that wouldn't be what these real principles, what we call family structure really is. That would be demons. So demons can take control over a family or over a social network, and you not even know it, and you be surrounded with them. But I'm basically breaking down to you how you can spot them out, right? I'm shedding light to you as a brother. I'm shedding that light for you. This is how you spot them out. If they don't make sure that you're concerned with weapons, money, or sex, they don't got your back. But you have to understand, which I'll go into deeper in a minute, there's three types of men or women in life, right? Three types. That's the good. No, wait. Hold on. There's three types of people in life. That's the holy, the good, and the evil. So what I'm saying basically is, if your family doesn't do these three things, they're not concerned for you to be a good person, and they're not good. They're evil. And if you don't know their influence on you and what it's done to you, you'll become just like them, evil. Because remember, siblings is what linked to your own self. Relatives is what your balance. The scales of my eye, right? Is your heart light as a feather? If it's not, you can't make it through the duat, meaning you cannot get through this life gracefully. So basically, you become evil because they weigh down your heart, right? So there's three types of people. What I'm saying is, for those who are good, they deal with family or society and social systems, right? They basically are dealing with the world, but they deal with it for the good of reality. And remember, this is an ancient concept, and the Hindus call it the gunas, which would be Satya, Sattva, which would be holy, Raja, and Tamas. Tamas would be evil. So these three concepts is what makes up Purusha and Prakriti, the whole cosmos. So there's three types of people and three types of everything: holy, good, and evil. So the holy men will totally renounce family itself. Why? Because you gotta understand, we're gonna get into that right now. Family, whether they're good or evil, is nothing but Maya. Maya, which represents the illusion. They're completely and absolutely the illusion. All the way from Ptah, all the way down to the son and daughter. This whole material world, the whole physical world, the external world is an illusion. So the holy man doesn't go into the external world and looks for God or looks for validation or looks for satisfaction or salvation. The holy man goes within and looks for God and looks for divinity and looks for help and looks for salvation. So it's a difference. But if you're good, which most people that are viewing this, most people in America and in this world, they just try to be good people. If you're good and your family, your external world isn't made up of these type of people in your family, these type of principles, then you gotta understand that you're basically at war. See, you're at war in your own house. And we're gonna give some quotes right now about that in a minute. But if you are holy and you have renounced family, renounced Maya, the illusion, then basically this is not relevant to you. Your family doesn't need to give you protection, money, and help you find a mate or relationships, because you've renounced all of that. You see, you're free from all of that. You're holy. You're separate from all of that. And holy men are the smallest amount of the people in the population. The good is the biggest bulk of them, and the evil is another small, or the remainder percent. So I may be talking to some people who are trying to go into the holy path to get God, realization of God. Well, if you're trying to do that, then don't even try to depend on the family, your family, whether they're good or bad. Renounce them completely, because you're not going to be able to get spiritually free. But if you're a good person, that means you're a householder. I mean, you're looking to build a family for yourself, which would be the relationship, meaning you want a wife, or if you're a female, you want a husband. You're going to need money for that, and you're going to need protection, because out here in nature, even in the human world, it's nothing but competition and war and brutality. It ain't nothing nice at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's got everything to do with competition. So if that's the case, you want your family to have already those things invested in you. If they don't have those invested in you, in this game of life, they just spectators. Run from them. So another reason, see, Maya, that the holy men would renounce family, whether it's good or evil, is Maya. The other is that it's bondage. Right. We'll get into the specifics of this in a minute, but so basically, the three types of people that exist, the holy would renounce family, whether it's good or evil, because they understand that family, overall, good or evil, is nothing but spiritual bondage or physical bondage. It keeps you from being able to get self-realization of God, which is what? Nothing but your soul within. And it's also Maya, which means it's an illusion. It's temporary, and it brings nothing but suffering, whether it's good or evil. It don't matter. But if you are one of the people in this life, in your incarnation, where you're not ready to get liberated from the whole material world completely and never reincarnate again, or never be born again, then you basically want to procreate and keep your lineage going, and you want to be a good person. To do that, you have to be a good person, meaning you have to deal with these things in the material world and be able to survive. So there's two totally different types of people. So if you're on that holy path and you're ready to renounce the whole material world because you see the flaws in it, or you're ready to realize God, more importantly, then you just renounce family completely, like I said, because it's bondage, because it's an illusion.